Thank you, Mr. Acting Deputy President. As an Australian who has been elected to serve the people of Queensland and Australia, I'm very proud to say that I have worked in many countries, and I am genuinely proud of Australian workers. We have a phenomenal human resource in this country, unequalled anywhere in the world. The initiative, the hard work, the honesty, the integrity of workers in this country, and many businesses in this country, especially small businesses, the engine room of our economy. More people are employed in small business than in any other sector of the economy. And we need to get the dynamism back that has been lost in Australia, lost largely because of this building and the decisions that come out of this building. So the MPI talks about the Morrison government's failure to address job security, and it's giving companies that exploit workers an unfair advantage against honest employers. Let me talk about the example in the Hunter Valley. The exploitation, the abuse, and the casual discarding of people tossed on the scrap heap when they're burned out. Casuals who have been exploited in the Hunter Valley by a major mining company, BHP, and one of the world's largest labour hire firms, an offshoot of Recruit Holdings from Japan, Chandler McLeod Group, with the complicity of the Hunter Valley division of the CFMEU. It would not have happened without all three working together complicit. But casuals, let's go back to the root cause. The root of casualisation started in small business because employers were so confused with the complexity of hiring people and so confused with the complexity when there was a problem to discuss. And so they went to casuals because it became too hard to deal with disciplinary issues in small business. And quite often we see small businesses having problems with someone who's stolen something out of their business, an employee who's stolen something out of the business, and the small business worker, small business owner, then trying to simply address that and ends up just paying $8,000, $10,000. We heard last week from the small business, from COSBOA, the Council of Small Business Organisations of Australia, of some companies, some small businesses paying $20,000 shut-up money to go away. The root cause of the insecurity in this country, one of the root causes, is the highly complex, needlessly complex and destructive industrial relations situation. Then what we saw was large companies taking the small business model and using casuals for a try before we buy. In other words, they'd watch the casual worker on their mine site, in their business, and if he or she made the goods, then they would hire them. And that has led to extreme abuse of workers in this country. It's led to safety hazards that I've complained about in my submission to the Grosvenor inquiry. But in the Hunter Valley, it led to miners being intimidated, being threatened with loss of jobs if they reported safety incidents. How stupid is a company when that happens? They're losing that prime source of information about their company. I want to give Mr. Bukarika, the National Legal Advisor for the CFMEU Mining Division, a huge compliment, because in Townsville he had the guts, the integrity, the courage to acknowledge that the Hunter Valley CFMEU is part of the problem at those mines in the Hunter Valley, because they enabled it to happen. I also want to give him praise because he said that the CFMEU has not done enough for casuals. Indeed, they have caused the casual issue in the Hunter Valley and the casual abuse of casuals. And he's admitted that his union will need to do more about it. So what we see is a mess that's been created in the past by labour laws that have become far too complex, and by the Liberals not addressing this issue in 2016 when they should have. Casuals show the pain of people at work. Casuals also are a sign of the failed industrial relations situation. No getting away from it. And what the government is doing in its latest industrial relations legislation, proposed to come before the Senate in next month, is they're shifting the liability for that mess from large business to small business. They're helping a couple of large companies manage their risk. We've approached this differently. We've gone out to listen. We've written to 80 different organisations, employers, employee groups, unions, union bosses, welfare associations, organisations, small business groups, and we've asked them for their advice, their views, and they've come and given it. And they've said no one else has invited them to do that. We're the only ones. We have three aims in addressing this legislation: to ensure security for Australian workers, whether they be small business, large business, and to assure security for small business and large business. Our three aims are: protect honest workers, protect small businesses, and restore Australia's productive capacity. And we see the employer-employee relationship as fundamental. It is the primary workplace relationship, and that's what's needed to empower workers. We've got the best workers in the world, and that's what's needed for employers and employees to work together with empowered employees and empowered employers, because that is the only way to create jobs. Government doesn't create jobs. As much as the Labor Party talks about it and the Liberal Party talks about it, government does not create jobs. Honest workers create jobs. Small businesses create jobs. Large employers create jobs. Government creates the environment, and the governments, Labor and Liberal, have stuffed this environment, this country's workplace environment. The Morrison government talks about security and recovery from COVID. How can that be possible when we've got destroyed our electricity sector? How can it be possible when we've got one of the worst tax systems in the world? How can it be possible when we're not supplying the right infrastructure? How can it be possible when we haven't got the skills development needed? How can it be possible when we've got over-regulation? Just go and talk to people, not only employers, small or large businesses, but also employees, sick to death of the energy prices, have gone from the cheapest in Australia in the world to the highest in the world, under this government and its predecessors in the Labor Party. So instead of propping up the Industrial Relations Club with excessive, needlessly complex legislation, we need to simplify. In fact, I put it to Peter Strong when he was in my office last week. I said to him, regulations are written at the moment for the few people who do the wrong thing, employers and employees. They should be written for the majority of good people, fine Australians, with severe penalties for the bad. We need to turn it upside down. Instead of penalising the 100% with the ridiculous workplace arrangements, we need to penalise the real shonks, the real criminals. Instead of assuming people are bad, employees are bad, employers are bad, we need to free people to produce, and we need to penalise and handicap those who deserve it. Empowering, not frightening. That's what we need in this country. Empowering, not frightening. What we see at the moment is an IR club, big employers, big industry associations, large unions, employer consultants, industrial relations consultants, and above all, lawyers. And again, I come back to the ETU legal advisor in Townsville, Michael Wright, and Mr. Bukarika from the CFMEU. Both said we have far too many lawyers involved in industrial relations, and that's why it's a mess. We have to remove that. And they both said they want less lawyers. They want to remove the lawyers. Full credit to the CFMEU mining division and full credit to the ETU for saying that. The big companies and the crooks are the ones who make the best out of the Industrial Relations Club, because they've got deep pockets. They can afford to fund the lawyers and to fund the others who live off the backs of Australian workers. That's where we need to get to. A simple workplace relationship. That's what we need to get back to. Will Labor make a commitment to properly and honestly reform IR? Will you? Will the Liberal Party, National Party, make a commitment to properly, honestly reform IR, to free people so that they're free to compete with the people in Korea, China, India, Africa, Malaysia, Singapore? That's the way to get security of employment, by empowering people One Nation is the party of energy security and affordability.
Senator
One Nation is the party of job security.
Your time is